Hi, this is Tisch Aitken, and this is your weekly report for the week of November 30th. This is a big week for all of us. We are now beginning the month of December and the final month of the year, of this historical year. And we are also going to see in the month of December both Saturn and Jupiter exit the sign of Capricorn and enter the sign of Aquarius, which is really big news. Saturn and Pluto met up on January 12th at 22 degrees of the cardinal earth sign of Capricorn, and this changed the tone for all of us. A lot of structures and old traditions and old ways of doing things in our lives coming down and collapsing and rebuilding and repairing, and a lot of loss and a lot of restrictions and a lot of endings. And now we're about to embark on a whole new era, the Age of Aquarius. And we end the year in eclipse season, so it makes it even more intense because the Saturn-Pluto conjunction at the beginning of the year, we're never going to see this much Capricorn again in the sky. And we had Jupiter exaggerating this story for all of us. We had the eclipses in the Capricorn Cancer axis, underscoring the emphasis of security and business and people in power and in our own power and authority. And these eclipses began in the Cancer Capricorn axis in the summer of 2018. And we saw the last eclipses in both Cancer and Capricorn over the summer. So this has been a really, really intense time of figuring out security in very uncertain times and working within restrictions and building a new world, really. You know, this is going to be a long time of mass mourning. Pluto, which is death and rebirth, was at the world axis, which means anything when a planet is at 22 degrees of a cardinal sign, it impacts all of us. And both Saturn and Pluto met up at 22 degrees of Capricorn, and the cardinal signs are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. So this changed everything for all of us. Now, at the end of this year, right by the winter solstice, on the winter solstice, we're going to have another historical cycle. It happens more frequently. Saturn is going to pair up with Jupiter. Saturn is the structure and Jupiter is the vision, and this occurs on the winter solstice. And that's a big deal. It happens at 0 degrees of the fixed air sign of Aquarius, and it's the first degree of the sign. It's very much about new beginnings, and it's very much about things associated with air signs: connection, community, intellect, innovation, communication. And so we are, in a really big time. And so at the end of November, on the 28th of November, Neptune stations direct at 18 degrees of the mutable water sign of Pisces. And there's really strong Neptune energy throughout the month of December, which is also interesting because we've been in such a Saturn-driven year of reality and dealing with such limiting conditions and really having to face what works and what doesn't. And Neptune is boundless. It has no boundaries. It rules the ocean. On the higher level, it's very spiritual and empathetic and compassionate. On the lower level, it can be very confusing and foggy and deceptive. And so we have Neptune. We feel that energy 5 days before and 5 days after. And it's in the sign it rules in Pisces. So a heavy emotional energy for sure. And then on the 30th of November, on Monday, November 30th, we have a lunar eclipse that takes place at 4:30 a.m. Eastern Time at 8 degrees and 38 minutes of the mutable air sign of Gemini. And the nodes of fate change signs over the summer. Well, a little bit late spring, let's say. On May 5th, the North Node entered the sign of Gemini and the South Node entered the sign of Sagittarius. And they'll be transiting in those signs until January of 2022. And with the North Node, which is where we're meant to go towards, the North Node transiting in the mutable air sign, I keep saying Earth, air sign of Gemini, again is about seeking connection, again about getting involved in your local community as we all rebuild, focusing on local events, on teaching and learning and gathering and dispersing information. Our intellect is our biggest resource, as is communication. And I think the Age of Aquarius really embraces that fact. And I think that the North Node in Gemini embraces this fact. And so this lunar eclipse at the end of November on the final day is at 8 degrees and 38 minutes of Gemini. And that's also close to the world axis because any planet or angle at 7 degrees of the mutable signs is also at the world axis. And that's Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. So we're going to feel it globally. It's a lunar eclipse, tends to be more about completion and release and endings. Eclipse season, you can expect a lot of really busy energy, a lot of things happening in a very quick and rapid way. Unexpected news can come out of the blue. Eclipses are like wild cards. Now, with this eclipse in Gemini, which is ruled by the planet Mercury, Mercury is the planet of communication. And it just recently cleared its shadow on November 20th. It surpassed, it surpassed 10 degrees of Scorpio, which is where it retrograded. So, or 11 degrees and 40 minutes actually is where it retrograded. So now we're out of the shadow of Mercury retrograde. We're getting a lot more tails. And this lunar eclipse in Gemini with Neptune stationing direct, Neptune uncovers in itself secrets. It will be foggy the end of November and the first few days of December, but we can expect that that haze, that fogginess is going to get lifted. And this full moon eclipse, a full moon or a new moon eclipse is like a new moon or a full moon on steroids. So again, heavy emotions. Full moons tend to be more about completion and endings, although I have seen in my studies of eclipses that major beginnings can happen on a lunar eclipse and major endings on a solar eclipse. They just bring change, and often they can reveal hidden information and make us see things in a way that we've never seen before. And with Gemini, which is, the ruler of communication, there's going to be lots of tales being told all over the place. And the transiting North Node of Destiny in Gemini is now at 19 degrees of Gemini. It's close to where Venus retrograded earlier in the year. It retrograded on May 13th at 21 degrees of Gemini. So maybe some things you were working with at that time, you're bringing resolution to. And so that could be something you're working with. But Neptune is also squaring the nodes of fate by a degree. And so again, this could bring, fated events. This could dissolve connections in our lives because Neptune can definitely dissolve things. It's very spiritual. It's very intuitive. It rules our imagination. Neptune rules our dreams. Journal your dreams. If you have selenite or amethyst, keep it by your bed. If you have even if you have like a bowl of salt, of rock salt or sea salt, so you keep something by your bed to kind of clear the negativity, because in a full moon eclipse you want to release. So if you have access to a windowsill or an outdoor area where you can put your crystals, put them out in the moonlight cleanse them in sea salt if you have to, but also focus on what you want to release and purge. And Neptune can make things much more emotional, that is for certain. But also it's excellent for manifesting, because in order to really manifest, we have to believe that it's true. And the Neptune energy is very prominent. You know, it just stationed direct. It squares the nodes of fate in the full moon eclipse. And then later in December, we're going to have a total solar eclipse on December 14th. And again, Neptune squaring the nodes of fate. And, you know, Neptune's making other aspects this month. So it's very prominent. And I think because we've all been working in a year of such reality, that's all we've been dealing with, you know, that's been just, not that we shouldn't deal with reality, but sometimes you need a break. I think we all need to rest. We need to mourn. We need to, you know, get ourselves in another state of mind in a healthy way. The healthier forms of Neptune, which is meditation, spiritual love, you know, doing things to practice self-care. And that is very important. And on the 5th of December, we have a beautiful trine with Venus in Scorpio, where it's in its challenging position. Venus in Scorpio can uncover buried issues around money or relationships. And actually in this lunar eclipse, the thing I noticed too is that Venus is going to be at 10 degrees of Scorpio. And that's where Venus retrograded 2 years ago in the fall of 18. It retrograded at 10 degrees and 50 minutes of Scorpio. So it's mirroring that time. When Mercury retrograded earlier this fall, Mercury retrograded at 11 degrees and 40 minutes of Scorpio. So again, Venus is close to that point. So you may get more information of what you've been working with all fall, what you were working with in the fall of 2018. And so that's something also. And Venus is in conjunct the the full moon eclipse. So there's a need for adjustment. Venus is what you love. The moon is how you get your needs met. Venus in Scorpio is a wounded Venus. The moon in Gemini wants to learn and talk and communicate, but it's making challenging aspects to Venus. And, you know, and then there's this heavy, prominent, emotional Neptune energy. So feel the emotions. We are in Sagittarius season, so that's a little more optimistic. And basically all the planets have stationed direct now. We had Mars stationed direct on November 13th and now actually moved a degree, so it's moving slowly. We have Neptune now direct, even though that fogginess is still very, you know, perceptible. It's still direct. Mercury is now direct and out of its shadow, and Saturn and Jupiter are almost out of Capricorn. So really work with what you want to anchor in your life before we get ready for the Age of Aquarius. And the last thing about this lunar eclipse is when it does go void on the day of the 30th, it goes void at 11:22 p.m. Eastern Time with a square to Neptune. So more of this Neptune release and loss and manifesting and hopefully going to the higher form of Neptune, but recognizing a lot of people are going through a lot of loss and a lot of pain, and hopefully being there for each other as we prepare for the Age of Aquarius, which emphasizes community and connection. I wish you a lot of luck, everybody. Thank you.